What's up, everybody? Ninth Jim here, back with another VGC 2020 Pokemon Sword and Shield competitive video. Today, we're talking about Indeedee. This Pokemon is actually pretty cool. We're talking about the Indeedee male, by the way, just not to, mess anything up. We're not female. Talking about Indeedee male today. This Pokemon is different from the female gender in more than just its looks. It actually does have different stats. It's more offensive. Its attack and speed and special attack are all buffed by 10 in exchange for 10 special defense, and HP. So if you are looking for a more supportive build, then probably female is the way to go. However, this one does get Trick Room and Prison. It has a couple of other moves as well. Indeedee female gets moves like Heal Pulse and I think Yawn. Something else, but they both have the amazing ability Psychic Surge, which activates Psychic Terrain for 5 turns, which is very, very good. They're the same typing and pretty similar stats. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the overview. So Psychic normal typing is amazing. 1 immunity, 1 resistance, immunity to Ghost, resistance to Psychic. This is really good. Weakness is only 2, Bug and Dark. Really, really good. Bug is not even very, very big in the meta. You have Bug on a couple of Pokemon, things like Durant, potentially, Dragapult, potentially with U-Turn. It's really U-Turn. U-Turn's the biggest one, and then First Impression is like every now and again, and you'll have Max Flutterby on like 1 Pokemon you encounter every 10 battles or something. So overall, it's really dark. So you can cover that with Colbur Berry or like Focus Sash or anything, and that works pretty well. And to our stats, so our stats is HP 60, which is not great, Defense 55, which is not great, and Special Defense 95, which is really solid. And if you use Psychic Seed, you can get a 1.5 times boost as soon as you enter the battle, which is like pretty good as well. So you can have really solid Special Defense and not amazing HP and defense, but if you invest into those, you can be fairly defensive, which is cool. Our attack is 65, which doesn't really matter, but special attack 105 and speed 95 are both really solid, and you can definitely use this Pokemon as an attacker as well. That can cover you with Imprisoned, Trick Room to make your fast Pokemon still really fast. And I think that's a really promising way of playing this Pokemon. I actually have 2 builds today, the offensive and supportive, and our damage calcs are a little hectic and our speed tiers are a little lacking. So we'll see if this double build is something that I should continue doing in certain videos or not. Definitely tell me down below if you do like it or not. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the builds themselves. So we have 2 builds, like I was saying. So we have offensive up here on the top. That is the top build, the one with the Focus Sash and Psychic Surge and Mystical Fire and so on. And then the bottom build is supportive Indeedee. We'll cover both of them right now. We'll start off with offensive Indeedee, as this is the way that I would probably play mine. It plays a lot similarly to Pokemon like Chandelure that we see currently being played in the meta. Chandelure is mostly played as like a special attacking offensive Pokemon that has Trick Room and Imprison. It can reset Trick Room, or it can just activate Imprison at the beginning of the game, get through any kind of redirection, and just stop Trick Room at its roots, which is really good, especially against big Pokemon like Dusclops that are just being played on mid-speed teams, just to beat fast teams. This allows you to play a fast team in the current meta really, really easily. And yeah, Chandelure might be a better pick, but this is not Chandelure's video. This is offensive Indeedee's video. This is actually just Indeedee male in general's video. We have both builds. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So in offensive Indeedee, ability Psychic Surge, that's going to be on both of the builds. It's just its main ability. It's an amazing ability. Setting that is really good. If you don't know what Psychic Terrain does, it does a whole lot. It stops priority moves, targeting things. So it stops Fake Out. It stops or only to things that are landed. So you can still use Fake Out on this Pokemon. You can just Fake Out things like Togekiss, Corviknight, Zapdos. You can anything in the air essentially is what you can still use priority moves. So you can still yawn Pokemon like that. You can still Fake Out them and so forth and so on and so forth, which is pretty cool. And that's really good. It also gives you a 1.5 times boost on your Psychic type moves. And it does something else. What else does it do? Well, of course, it pops your Psychic Seed off as well. And I think that's all it does. Pulled it up here. So it prevents all priority and boosts the power of Psychic type. I guess that's all it does. Yeah, pretty good. It's pretty good. I would definitely say it's pretty good. It gives your Psychic your 1.5 times boost, as well as your stab typing, giving that Psychic 1.5 times boost. If you use Life Orb, you get a 1.3 times boost as well. Just stack the boosts on, and this Pokemon can deal a lot of damage out with Psychic, which is really, really promising. We also have access to a couple of other moves, Mystical Fire, Energy Ball, a couple of good spread coverage moves, and this Pokemon can be pretty offensive, which is really good. For our items, we use Focus Sash on this build. However, Life Orb is definitely a really good option, as well as Colbur Berry. All of them are pretty good. You could even use Psychic Seed. However, you know, the special defense boost, we're trying to be offensive, and most of the time, the Psychic Seed boost is going to give you the same, like, enough potential to not die from 2 hits. Like, you'll be able to soak up one attack, and so does Focus Sash. So, like, I'm just using Focus Sash in this build. But Colbur and Psychic Seed are both definitely options as well. Focus Sash, I like it a lot because this Pokemon will die to certain attacks, things like Tyranitar. What else? There's some other stuff. You know, a lot of big boy Pokemon that are just like meant to just deal insane damage. We have damage calcs, but yeah. So Psychic, Mystical Fire, Trick Room, and Imprison. Psychic, Mystical Fire are our attacks of choice. We also have Trick Room, Imprison, like I was saying, just to stop the fast Pokemon. This is the fast version of offensive Indeedee. It has base 95 speed, so this Pokemon can actually be pretty fast. With our max invest of Timid and 252 into it, we hit 161, which is actually very, very fast. And then also 252 into special attack, just dealing as much damage as fast as possible. That's kind of the idea of an offensive Indeedee. Some potential partners, you know, things like Tyranitar, Excadrill, things that don't really like Trick Room, you know, since you can Trick Room Imprison, and you just Imprison, get rid of the Trick Room option, and now you're fast. Now your team is really fast. So you can use fast options like that, as well as Dracovish Tailwind, Tailwind shenanigans in general, Max Airstream, and just a whole bunch of stuff in general can, you know, Indeedee can really show off how powerful it can really be. And it can be very, like, menacing. Like Psychic and Mystical Fire and Energy Ball can all deal a lot of damage, as well as being able to stop that Trick Room. This Pokemon is a pretty solid offensive package. Into our defensive, our supportive Indeedee, it's very similar overall. However, the stats investment is very different, and a couple of moves have changed. Just one, really. So instead of our second attack, we opted to go with Ally Switch. That way we have Ally Switch for, especially for things like Dragapult lead, like Dragapult and Indeedee. Dragapult's a really good partner for it because you can Ally Switch, you know, your opponent's like hits into your Dragapult with their Dragapult, like Max Phantasm, trying to kill it, and then you Ally Switch, you don't take any damage because you're immune, and then you get off like a free turn, which is really, really good. And your opponent can really swing you like really heavily in favor, which is really good. So for our item, we have Psychic Seed, which this, like, so since we're so invested into all of our defenses anyway, we give it Psychic Seed to just give it a 1.5 times boost on our special defense as soon as the game starts, so that we start off with 1.5 times in special defense and max invested in HP and defense. This is a really good way of playing this. You could also use Colbur Berry or Focus Sash. I really like the Psychic Seed. I think it's good for the supportive Indeedee. So yeah, I like that. I think it's good. And we're still running with that Imprisoned Trick Room just to be able to stop that Trick Room. You don't have to run this on it. However, I just really think it's one of the main focuses of this Pokemon, and you know, I really wanted to feature that. Next, as far as our supportive Indeedee go, we are playing it with other defensive Pokemon, things like Milotic, which can just become a win con on its own. You know, it's not being affected by your opponent's like prankster attacks, things like Taunt, so it can still coil. You know, Thunder Wave, so it can still coil, and Hypnosis, and so on and so forth, and making this Pokemon just overall still just a huge threat, and then wiping away like some other stuff, like they can't fake out. So you just get your coils through like immediately every time, and then start to Hypnosis, and this Pokemon can just become, like, Milotic can just become a win con on its own. Like, easily it can like 1v2, 1v3, potentially even 1v4. Can't talk. It can just, you know, carry your entire team a lot after a few coils and a couple of max attack boosts, and just being able to sleep anything, and just dealing huge damage with muddy water, or not dealing huge damage but then recover. Anyway, this isn't a Milotic video, so we're done talking about Milotic, but that's one of the main synergies. Yeah. Other moves that we can use on both these Pokemon is Helping Hand and Fake Out. Fake Out, like I said, it doesn't work like super well with your Psychic Surge. So I don't have it featured on any of these sets, but it's definitely an option. And then Helping Hand is also just a really good attack in general. You know, giving you that like choice banded boost on any of your Pokemon or choice specs, you know, for one turn. It's really powerful. And it is priority, but like priority affecting your own Pokemon, I think still works. I think. I might be wrong, actually. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Yeah, but yeah, that's gonna be it for this slide here. We're gonna go ahead and talk about some speed tiers. So like I said, our speed tiers are kind of wonky. So on the top half we have fast, and on the bottom half we have slow. So we'll talk about them individually. So first off, as far as I can't talk today. As far as our offensive Indeedee male goes, we are at 161, which is very fast. We're on the same speed tier as Arcanine, which is famously like quite fast. So 161 is really good. Like initially only getting outsped by Mimikyu and Charizard, which are really good. Mimikyu doesn't really threaten us. Charizard obviously threatens us just because it's a huge like offensive threat in general. Like it just deals huge damage to everything. And other than those, you know, things like Inteleon, Cinderace, Whimsicott, Durant, and all famously known as fast Pokemon, things like Scarf, Swift Swim, Chlorophyll, Unburdened, Pokemon like that are going to be outspeeding us. But other than that, we actually outspeed a lot of good Pokemon. Excadrill of the Mold Breaker archetype will be outspeeding all the time at 154, even at Jolly, which is really good because Excadrill, you know, deals a lot of damage and is a very heavy hitter in general. And we have Mystical Fire, so we can like two-shot it with Mystical Fire potentially if it doesn't Dynamax. If it does Dynamax, probably three-shotting. Unless you have Life Orb, then you're two-shotting. So I'm not sure. But it's pretty good. It's a solid matchup. Next, we always outspeed Form Change Rotom unless it's Scarfed. We don't see Scarf that much anymore on those Pokemon. However, it's still like realistic, so you know you'll get outsped by it sometimes. And then if you get outsped by Form Change Rotom, you know that it's Scarf, which is like pretty good knowledge. So yeah, that's about it for our speed tiers for Big Boy, for Fast Boy. For Slow Boy, we're down at 115 as far as Indeedee male goes, uninvested. We are outspeeding Indeedee female, which is good, and Milotic, which is good. A couple of just relevant Pokemon there. Other than that, there's not too many that are like very far in between of fast and slow. Other than like the ones that were faster than at the top. And as far as what we're faster than or slower than as the Slow Boy is Tyranitar as a fast guy. If Tyranitar is not max invested in speed with positive nature, we outspeed it, which is good. Especially since like Crunch or like Max Darkness just like hits really heavy on our Indeedee male. And then Alcremie, if it's max invested into speed, will outspeed us. But if it's not max invested into speed, we outspeed it. Which Alcremie is like a weird niche Pokemon, but it has been trending up a lot recently, especially with Lapras. Decorate Lapras has been pretty cool, and a lot of people have been playing it. So yeah, that's about it for our speed tiers. Into our damage calcs. So our damage calcs are really hectic, and I'm sorry if it's kind of hard to follow, just because I tried to fit in way too many because we have two builds today. So like a lot of these are like, what about the other build? How would it perform in this exact scenario? So it'll be a little weird, but I'll be able to explain it to the best of my ability. So first off, we have Incineroar Darkest Lariat hitting 68 to 80% into our defensive Indeedee male. However, if it was offensive, it would OHKO. Like if it had 0 investment in HP and defense, it would OHKO. But it's a focus, like because of Focus Sash, we can guaranteed live. So that's one of the like big things about our offensive for Focus Sash instead of Life Orb. Yeah, Life Orb will put us into range for a lot of OHKOs and 2-hit KOs and so on and so forth. But Focus Sash like does keep us alive in a lot of scenarios. As you'll see in the next 2 damage calcs, 2 down, the Excadrill. We'll talk about the Tyranitar first though. Max Darkness from a max invested Tyranitar without even proccing its own weakness policy. It OHKOs, guaranteed OHKOs, our defensive Indeedee as well as our offensive Indeedee. Obviously, if anything can OHKO our defensive, of course it'll OHKO our offensive. However, offensive will have Focus Sash, so yeah. That's good. And then next we have Excadrill. Max invested Excadrill Max Steel Spike into our defensive Indeedee will live. It'll guarantee 2-hit KO, 77 to 91%. However, if we're offensive with Focus Sash, we just live that attack anyway at 1% HP. So either way, like, I don't know, Focus Sash, a lot of big attacks are going to 2-hit KO you, even if you're max invested in defense. So Focus Sash just seems kind of like the way, and offensive just seems like the way with Focus Sash to me personally. Next we have Indeedee-M Mystical Fire. Max invested Mystical Fire into an Excadrill Dynamax Excadrill. Hits 104 to 124, which is 27 to 33%, which is a very small chance of 3-hit KOing, which is really, really weak. However, if we have a Life Orb, we have a guaranteed 3-hit KO, which is not like amazing, especially since we get 2-hit KO'd, but we are faster. So with our supporting Pokemon, we can take down an Excadrill like fairly easy, even if it's Dynamaxed, which is like not the easiest thing to do since it's like not a great matchup, but it's not a terrible matchup. And then our supportive will like don't even really bother dealing damage with supportive. It's not amazing. Next we have Psychic into a Conkeldurr. This is 0 invested. We have 60 to 72% damage guaranteed OHKO, which is not bad, especially since Drain Punch does neutral damage to us, and I think we would still guarantee 2-hit KO actually, depending. If it's Guts and activated Guts, then it'll probably deal like an insane amount of damage, and then we might not be able to 2-hit KO. I'm not sure actually, but yeah. So with our max invested, a Psychic with Psychic Terrain and max invested deals 76 to 90% damage, which is a guaranteed 2-hit KO. But with a Life Orb, it pushes us into guaranteed OHKO range, which is actually really good. So yeah, solid matchup against Conkeldurr. Yeah, that's gonna be it for our damage calcs. I'm trying to move this along. We're so far into the video. It's a really long video. It's because I doubled up on the builds. Maybe I'll just make one build for each one, like a video for each build in the future. But anyway, for a single spotlight, we're gonna keep this one brief. This version is pretty cool in singles, in my opinion. Using Choice Scarf as just using this Pokemon as a very fast special sweeper is pretty cool. Psychic Surge gives it its own league in as far as like psychic Pokemon go, and it's so fast. It's actually like insanely fast, and you can use Trick to really mess up setup Pokemon with Choice Scarf, which is really cool. It has Psychic, Mystical Fire, and Dazzling Gleam, and you can definitely switch one of those out for Energy Ball as well. But Dazzling Gleam gives us a good Hydreigon matchup, and just Dark in general, which would otherwise really, really threaten this Pokemon. So yeah, Choice Scarf like really puts it in a league of its own as far as speed goes, which is really cool. That's about it for Indeedee. I'm gonna keep this part brief as well, since I tend to have very long outros sometimes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like Indeedee, like and subscribe. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. It means so much to me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening, day, whatever you think. In sum up, I like Indeedee a lot. I think it's really good, and I would kind of lean more towards the offensive variant of the Indeedee. As far as the male goes, it plays very similar like Chandelure, where you can deal out a good bit of damage as well as using a Focus Sash just to live, and then set up Imprison for Trick Room type Pokemon, and kind of just destroy Trick Room setups. So that's pretty good. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there with all this scary stuff happening in the world, and thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening or morning. I think it's like noon when I'm recording this, so yeah, have a good afternoon. Bye.